My name is Lynette Njeri. I'm from the World Energy Day Secretariat, but I also wear a different hat. I work also at Innovators Limited, and we'll be getting to know a little more about both organizations. So welcome to the second day. We are excited to be here. We have our first speaker already ready. He's here and ready to speak to us. And our first speaker today is from Power for All. He's a partnerships and campaign manager, and his name is Anand Prabu Pathanjali. As a partnerships campaign manager, hi Anand. As a partnership campaign manager, he's responsible for developing and maintaining high-impact partnerships to mobilize the Power for All community and other partners to take action that accelerates universal access of energy in Africa and India. Anand has 10 years of experience in the environmental sector and in the clean energy sector. He previously worked for other organizations like SEED in India, ASAR, Social Impact, and Green Space. He has a master's in sustainable energy from Germany, and he's a passionate climate activist. Anand today will be speaking to us about a research that Power for All has done about powering renewable energy jobs. And so he'll be telling us about the kind of what they were able to uncover from these census of 2022. Let us welcome Anand with a hearty, hearty clap. Welcome. We say Karibu Sana, Anand. Over to you.
Thank you, Karibu. It's a pleasure, and thanks for the very kind words and introduction. It's an honor and pleasure to be here in front of this esteemed audience. My name is Anand Prabu Pathanjali. I'm the Partnership and Campaigns Manager with Power for All. For those who don't know about Power for All, we are a global international organization that works for the good of the sector of energy access. We started in 2015. We came out of the energy access sector to create this ecosystem of DRE companies and raising awareness to ensure that there is a greater network to end energy poverty. Our mission is to help transform the way energy is being used, generated, and paid in order to end energy poverty faster in Africa and in India and in Asia. The Powering Jobs campaign, we started this entire study. The reason being is that there are plenty of jobs in the renewable energy sector. But when you start talking about the DRE sector, the distributed energy sector, or the off-grid sector, the jobs are two types of twofolds, formal and informal. We couldn't really quantify the jobs. The sector had a huge potential because of its varied applications. And the way the governments and development sector partners were not giving the right image or the potential of these jobs in any format. So we decided to investigate it ourselves through a bottom-up approach that is credible. And we started this entire survey and assessment back in 2019. That was our first survey. With that time, we did it for India, Kenya, and Nigeria. This year, we have covered three more countries. We have now India, Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, and Ethiopia. What we aim to do is, with the help of the survey, we assess the job market. What's the existing job market in these countries and how many people they employ? So we directly surveyed companies and got that information from a huge varied scale, type of jobs, what is the skill training they have, what are the numbers currently are there in the market, how many female to male employees, and also what are the type of companies, a small company or an entrepreneur or a large scale company. We tried to assess that and came up with this report. Just to give an overview of this slide presentation, we're just going to talk about the goals of the Powering Jobs campaign, what the census is about, what the research scope was, and what's the estimate and trends that come out from this report, and key findings and insights, and finally the question and answer. Um, just to give an First of all, I would just like to thank all our funders who are part of this report assessment for the last 1 year, the Rockefeller Foundations, Food Energies Foundations, and Get Invest. And also thanks to our in-country survey partners, both in these 5 countries and globally. They were there on the screen. CREA played a very incredible role in supporting us for the Kenyan assessment. And we also like to thank the Global Steering Committee members and the in-country steering committee members helped in shaping this campaign together. Just to give a context in terms of why this campaign is important, there is an SDG 7 goal by 2030 to end energy poverty globally. Our numbers back this up, be it from our 2019 research or 2020 research. 4.5 million jobs can be created by renewable energy sector. And DRE sector alone can create a huge potential, a huge chunk of these jobs because of its varied applications on the ground, be it from water pumps to irrigation to agricultural appliances to home lighting, all these various jobs. I mean, it's created. And how energy access and job creation, be it in the form of, and this needs to pace each other. Why do I say is that we need to end energy poverty. At the same time, we need to have a skilled, trained workforce to make sure it is done in a qualitative and quantitative manner. So the job creation and ending energy poverty should go hand in hand. And that's why we are trying to stress in this report and in our campaign how training and skilling people is crucial to end energy poverty by the end of the decade. That's the next 7 years. And one of the main reasons we did it in 2022 was the world was recovering from the pandemic. And we wanted to see how the sector faced the pandemic. How did it recover? Did it recover? And there are 5 countries. So how did the sector do in all these 5 countries? And we found out that the sector, the DRE sector or the distributed renewable energy sector, survived. It survived and it did far better than the economy of the country itself or the traditional fossil fuel industry. Pico and solar home systems were the key engine of employment in Africa. Women's participation has grown compared to 2019, but still far from parity. The scope of the census, as I said, I mean, we covered 5 countries: India, Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, and Ethiopia. It was mainly for the direct employment for the period of 2019 to 2023. The main technology types we assessed: Pico solar, solar home systems, commercial and industrial, standalone, and mini-grid systems. The primary data collection was done through a survey for 6 months. For more than 350 companies across these 5 countries were surveyed. And we did in-country focus group discussions in all these countries and had expert reviews going over these data. When it comes to numbers, so what you see on the screen, the green represents the formal jobs and the blue represents the informal jobs. India being a mature market, it employed about 80,000 employees, out of which 70% was in formal sector and 23% being in the informal sector. Nigeria and Kenya in 2021 employed about close to 50,000 employees in the DRE sector, out of which it was a unique case. For Nigeria, it was more formal. 70% was formal and 30% was informal, whereas in Kenya, it was 60% informal and 30% formal jobs. Uganda and Ethiopia are emerging markets. Uganda had a more formalized job scene, 80% formal jobs and 20% informal jobs, and Ethiopia being almost 90% formal jobs. And altogether, I mean, like combined in the last 5 years, from the 2019 survey to today, close to 450,000 jobs were created in the DRE sector alone in these 5 countries. And that's a tremendous milestone. And what is needed more is on the skilling and creating more awareness and bringing more youth and women into the sector. So on the next slide, we see about the trends. I was talking about the pandemic trends. how the sector recovered from the pandemic. So here we classify as three archetypes: strong and immediate rebound. So Nigeria showed this as a category. I mean, if you see the blue graph on my screen, Nigeria bounced back really fast post the 2020 lockdown. So in 2021, it started bouncing back, and it really recovered far better than the pre-pandemic levels. Slow and steady recovery. Kenya and India showcase this very clearly in the graph, where they have come back to the job numbers, the pre-pandemic levels, but in a slow growth trajectory. So by 2023, by next year, it would have crossed the pre-pandemic levels of job employment. Countries that were affected quite badly were Uganda and Ethiopia, where without any kind of a physical or a policy intervention, getting the sector back into the upward trajectory is going to be difficult. In terms of the workforce, here we classify the workforce as skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled. So in mature markets, India, Kenya, and Nigeria are mature markets for the DRE sector. Most of the, or more than 50%, or close to 50% of the employees are skilled. Skilled as in having a degree, having a technical know-how, technology literate, and being a finance, any employee having a finance degree or an MBA degree or an accounting degree, those come under the skilled category. Like if you see Kenya, India, and Nigeria, they all have this close to 50% of the employment is skilled. And they fall into the larger workforce of the formal workforce category. And only in Ethiopia, you see close to like 70% it's unskilled workforce, and only 20% of a skilled workforce is present. And the skill share of the sector also correlates how the sector has matured, how the awareness of the sector is among the public and the youth to get more trained and more skilled in a particular vertical. So that's why you see India, Kenya, and Nigeria have a larger uptake or interest in the sector, and a lot of people are skilled in this. When it comes to training, this was an interesting finding because we wanted to assess when a new person comes into the sector, how many hours of training is he or she is provided, both internal and external. What we found out was in Kenya provides one of the highest hours of training. 120 hours of training is given in a year. This 120 hours is a mix of internal and external. Close to about 70 hours of internal training and close to about 50 hours of external training is given. And this is on an average of our 350 surveys companies. More than 50% of these companies said they did provide some form of training. So this hours of training varied across the countries quite drastically. For example, if you see Ethiopia only provided 50 hours of an in-house training or in-house and external training for an employee who joins the sector, whereas India and Kenya provided more than close to 120 to 130 hours of training for the employee. Many companies felt that lack of financial resources, shortage of quality training programs. What do you mean by quality training programs is what the company wants the employee to be skilled versus what training institutes or schools teach you. They were not in sync. That usually happens, and we are trying to help bridge that gap by making sure that training institutes and companies work together to create a new framework for training that is the need of the hour, rather than textbook learning versus a complete on-job training that doesn't match together. And also the low tenure. When I meant by low tenure is many people join a company for short duration, for few months or few years, or not even few years, few months. So the companies feel it's a waste of resource to spend training hours on these employees. So in markets where this was quite prevalent, companies were hesitant to invest in training programs on young people. When it comes to the women's participation has drastically increased from what it was in 2019 till today. Though in some countries like India, because of the pandemic, the women's participation went down. In India, it was 23 or 24% in 2019, but in this survey, it was 21%. Due to the pandemic, a lot of women's job prospects and roles were affected, and they had to stay at home. But in Kenya and Nigeria, the growth has been quite tremendous. Kenya is I mean, five survey countries where the women's participation was 41%, and the industry is aiming to reach parity 50% by 2025, which is very ambitious. And kudos to all of you present there in Mombasa today. And Ethiopia and Nigeria are catching up as well. But it's still far from parity in these countries. But a lot of awareness programs and training programs targeted towards women are coming up, and that's going to boost women's participation in the sector quite a bit. But one key thing to notice is pay gap still exists. What I mean by pay gap is for the same position, a male gets paid more than the women. So that still exists. It varies, or it is in the same trajectory as how other industries are, or how the pay gap in the country itself is. So that is something, is a point of concern that needs to be addressed and bridged. In today's day and age, men and women are in the same parity, and the pay gap should not really exist in a sector in a modern sector like the solar and DRE sector. Last but not least, just to give an overview that the DRE sector itself has established itself as a large and stable, reliable job provider in sub-Saharan Africa and in India, while addressing energy access issues. Close to 450,000 jobs have been created in these five countries in the last 2 years. And the sector has shown to be very resilient, very milder job losses compared to any other sector in the country, in your countries, in the respective five countries. And has been far more resilient than the traditional fossil fuel industry itself. With that, I would like to say thank you. And I would like to take an opportunity to ask all the attendees and the people who are joining in virtually, all the reports. The global report was launched on September 19th at the New York Climate Week. And that report is available online at powerforall.org. I'll share the link on the chat box. And the in-country reports, the country reports for India, for Uganda, for Ethiopia, and Kenya are all available online in the same platform. So please download it, share your views, and get back to us for any questions or recommendations that you feel it's right. Thank you.
All right, a round of applause for Anand for unveiling this research for us. Thank you so much, Anand, for this powerful research. I think research is really critical for us as we move as we play in this space of renewable energy, because we get to understand the gaps. We can see where our strengths are and where the gaps are. And from your presentation, I can take away that the DRE industry is more resilient. It has a better bounce rate from any interruption, such as COVID, and it has some of the most skilled people working in this industry. I really am impressed by what the renewable energy sector can do, and there's so much more that we can do so that we can get to end energy poverty and achieve SDG 7 by 2030. So we'll take any questions that we may have for Anand. Any questions in the room? Any questions online? Anyone with a question about the research? It looks like people really understood this. Yeah? Any comments? No? Okay, any online comments or questions? So as Anand said, the reports are on the Power for All website. You can get the global report as well as the individual country reports. That's Kenya, India, Ethiopia, and Nigeria, as well as Uganda. So thank you so much, Anand, for such a powerful Powerful presentation. Is it okay if we share the presentation with the audience here today? Okay. Thank you so much for allowing us to do that. Thank you, Anand, for such a wonderful present. Let's give him another hearty, hearty clap.